welcome back to our channel. This is Science Lectures 256. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following us. Please consider subscribing if you've not yet subscribed to this channel. We really have a privilege of having you. Thank you. So we are going to continue with our lectures, and today we will be looking at biostatistics, basically statistics in terms of the biological field. So I'm going to start off with what statistics is, because we have two words here. We have bio and statistics, and bio comes from a word meaning life. Then we are going to define what statistics is. So what is the definition of statistics? Statistics is simply the science. We can define it as the science of dealing with numbers, science of dealing with numbers. So that is briefly statistics, how we can define it. Science of dealing with numbers. But as well, we can further define the statistics in terms of not only science of dealing with numbers, but it involves collecting data, collection of data. Then after collecting data, what happens? We organize the data. So organizing data. Then it also involves summarization of the data. So there is summarizing of this data. After summarizing the data, what happens? There is analysis of the data. Analysis of data. Finally, what happens? Drawing conclusions from this data. So the data collected can be from experiments. We might have run some experiments to collect this data. So in other words, this is how we can simply define statistics. Science of dealing with numbers, or you can say it involves collection of data, organizing data, summarizing the data, analyzing data, and drawing conclusions or inferences from the data we have. So how is statistics different from biostatistics? Now, if we bring in the term bio, if we combine bio and statistics, these two terms combine statistics. Biostatistics. Biostatistics still is the application. So here we apply application of statistics, application of statistics to fields, to topics in biology, to topics in agriculture, to topics in zoology, to topics in medicine. So this is to topics in medicine. This is biostatistics. We are applying the knowledge of statistics in the fields that are science related. In fact, to summarize it all, biostatistics is application of statistics in two basic fields. That is biological science, in biological sciences, and health. So these two basically, biological science and health. Health, things to do with medicine. Biological science, a couple of fields within the biological science. So that is basically a definition of biostatistics and how it is different from the general overview of what statistics is all about. So we need to know why are we bothered with the statistics, the biostatistics, and the statistics I'm talking about. So that will take us to what we call the importances of statistics. So what are the importances of, what are the reasons as why we need to bother about these statistics? So we are briefly going to look at the importances of statistics. So number one, we've seen that this statistics is used in summarizing data, to summarize the data. So we summarize data in form of tables. We can have graphs and tables, in form of graphs and tables. That is summarizing data. Because if you have data scattered, not summarized, it becomes a little challenge to come up with conclusions from that data. Then another thing why we need these statistics is to organize the data. Organize the data such that the data is not just disorganized, to organize the data we have at hand. Then why do we need statistics again? To test hypotheses, to test the research hypothesis. So we'll see what an hypothesis is, and we have two basic types of hypotheses, but we'll see that in detail. We have the null, what we refer to as the null hypothesis, and we also have what we refer to as the alternative hypothesis. But we'll go into detail in that. But whenever we are doing research, we have what we call an hypothesis, and what helps us to test the hypothesis is statistics. Then another reason as to why we need statistics is that these statistics can also be used to give credit. I would say to give credit to the research methods, the methods used in doing research, and also to findings and to the research findings. So statistics can help us, or biostatistics can help us to give credit to the methods that were used to carry on a given type of research, and to also help us to discuss, to give the findings, to give credit to these findings we have in the field. Then another thing why we need these statistics is that it helps us to discuss or present the research findings, the findings from the research. So you can easily discuss and present these findings in form of graphs and tables as an easy way of presenting the data using statistics. Then why else do we need statistics? Statistics can also help us in, what else can we think of, guys? Statistics can help us in training. It trains us to become professional researchers. So in our journey of becoming professionals in research, we need these statistics. So any professional researcher at least needs a glimpse or a big idea about what statistics is. Then finally, we can use these statistics to help us determine the relationship, between specific variables, between certain variables. For example, we might want to determine the relationship between lung cancer and smoking, and cigarette smoking among patients. So what will guide us along the way is we'll be well guided if we have knowledge about what the statistics is all about. So those are some of the reasons as to why we are bothered with this concept called biostatistics. So statistics is broadly divided into two. We are going to see these major divisions of statistics. One is called descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics. Then another one is called inferential, drawing differences, inferential statistics. So we are going to start with descriptive statistics, and we'll see what it means. But before we start off, you need to know that descriptive statistics is again divided further into two. It is divided into what we call the measures of central tendency, measures of central tendency, and the measures of variation. The descriptive statistics is divided into two: measures of central tendency and measures of variation. And inferential has no divisions, like we are going to see. But I'm going to first define what descriptive statistics is. So this is a type of statistics that helps us to organize and describe data. So a type of statistics that helps us to organize and describe data is called descriptive statistics. And it is divided into two, like we said. One of the divisions we've said is that it's measures of central tendency, and the other one is measures of variation. Measures of central tendency and measures of variation. What do we mean by measures of central tendency? A measure of central tendency is like a single value that describes data at the center, at the middle point, at the center. For example, we have three measures of central tendency. We have the mean, we have the median, and we also have the mode. The mean can also be defined as, you can also call it the average number, the central average number of your data, the central or mean or average number of your data. Then the median is the middle number of the data. Then the mode is in terms of frequency, how frequent the number appears or any data appears within your data set. So mode is frequency, median is the middle number, mean is the average. Those are measures of central tendency. It's a single value that represents your data or describe the data as a middle point, like the middle point of your data. Then measures of variation are also divided into three. We have three measures of variation. We have the standard deviation. We can as well call it SD. Then we have the standard error, and also something called the variance. So we are saying descriptive statistics is used to organize and describe data, divided into two: measures of central tendency and measures of variation. Under the measures of central tendency, we have the mean, which is the average, the median, which is the middle number, the mode or the frequency, and in the measures of variation, we have standard deviation, standard error, and the variance. So that is it with what we call descriptive statistics. Now, what the heck is inferential statistics? So inferential statistics is used to draw inferences or conclusions, a type of statistics that aids us to draw inferences or conclusions. Conclusions can also be called inferences. But now to infer, we don't just infer using the general population. Now, what happens in inferential statistics is that we need a sample population from the main population. So we need to get a sample which is representative, and we do research on the sample, then we give conclusions based on the representative sample. So to show it practically, we can have a population given by capital N, having all these individuals within the population, which is N, denoted by capital N. Now, what happens is that we'll pick a sample population from these individuals. Let's say the population had 100 individuals, N, equivalent 100 individuals. From that, we'll pick a sample, a random sample. It could be a random sample. Then, let's say the sample is denoted by small n, equaling to 10 individuals. So we have about 10 individuals within the sample. So we'll do research. We'll do our research on this sample population. And whatever the findings we'll get, we use them to draw conclusions, to infer to the entire population, which is N. So that is what we call inferential statistics. But whenever we are selecting samples, there are specific methods we follow. And for this, more will be studied in research methods, where you realize that to pick a sample, to obtain a sample, we can use techniques like simple random sampling, simple random sampling. Then we can also use techniques like stratified sampling, stratified sampling. Then other techniques that can be used can be purposive sampling, judgmental sampling, judgmental, cluster sampling, sample cluster. So these are the methods that you can use to obtain a sample, which sample you will use to draw inferences to the general population. And those are the two basic types of statistics. So we are going to look at the scales, what we call scales of measurement. These are very important, very key whenever we are doing research and whenever we are dealing with our data in research. So scales of measurement, this is an area where you guys should take note of, because whenever we have data, at least you should take on a specific scale of measurement. So this is what we are going to see, scales of measurement, and we have 4 basic scales of measurement. One of them is called the nominal. Scales of measurement is the way we can have our data, or the way we can have our variables presented. So we have the nominal or categorical. Nominal, we can also call it categorical. Then we can as well have something called the ordinal or ranked data. Then we can also have another scale of measurement. Another scale of measurement is called ratio. And finally, interval data. So these are the 4 basic scales of measurement, and they are way different. Some are similar. They share some characteristics, like we will see. So nominal or categorical scale of measurement. This one is where we have data. Our data can be presented in form of, data exists as names, as either names. Then it can be labels, in form of labels. Data can be in form of categories, names, labels, categories. Data can be presented in form of codes, So that is nominal or categorical data. To have an example, we can give an example of sex. For example, sex. One can either be male. Actually, we can say male. So male, or someone can be female. We said to is female. So this is like a name. It is describing an individual. It's descriptive. In fact, nominal or categorical data is descriptive. It describes. So we have the male or female. It doesn't mean that male is way more higher in terms of number than female. Then another example we can give is marital status. For example, someone can appear as married. We can have another person single. Then someone can appear to be divorced. So this is the marital status. You're either married, single, or divorced. The numbers here don't assume any order. So in other words, if we are having nominal or categorical data, a characteristic we have is that there is no ordering. You take note of this. There is no ordering of cases. In other words, the cases are not ordered. You're either married, single, or divorced. But it doesn't mean that where there is a one, maybe someone is stronger than the next person and the other person. Here we can also include, basically we can go with this sex and the marital status. Then that is what we call nominal or categorical, no ordering of cases, the data we are having. But in ordinal, the data or ranked, there is ordering of cases. In other words, the data is ranked. For example, which example can we have here? We can have an example of, so for example, the economic status of individuals. Some people can be maybe well off, rich. Someone is poor, and the other person is middle. has middle income status. Middle income status. So if you see, I've started with rich, I'm giving poor, I'm giving middle income status. But we can rank these events. And maybe we say rich comes first if we are to rank. Number 1 is rich. Number 2 is middle income status, middle. Then number 3 is the poor individual. So there is ranking of events. The events are shown a given order. Same applies to things like education level, someone's education level. For example, you might first do a Bachelor of Science, a BSc, then you do a Masters of Science, an MSc, then the third level is a PhD. So here we are realizing that the data is assuming a given order in ordinal or ranked data. So that is the distinction, the difference between nominal and ordinal. In nominal, we had no ordering of cases, and in ordinal or ranked, we are having events where we have ordering of the cases. Then we want to understand now what ratio means, ratio and interval, but I will start with interval data. So for interval data, so for interval, we have what we call intervals, and intervals can also be different. For interval data, you can also call it differences. The intervals or differences. So in interval data, the intervals are meaningful. Intervals are meaningful. So the intervals are meaningful. The differences between the data is meaningful, but the ratios are not ratios. Ratios are not meaningful. Ratios are not meaningful. So I'm going to explain why this is like this. Then we have no true zero. Data that's, we have what we call an arbitrary zero. Arbitrary zero. We assume that a zero is there, but in actual sense, our data lacks a true zero. So no true zero when we are looking at interval data. No true zero. So here, the basic example we have is temperature. Temperature. So let's imagine we are having a temperature of 40 degrees Celsius and a temperature of 41 degrees Celsius as one group. Then another group, we have group 2, we have a temperature of 80 degrees Celsius and a temperature of 81 degrees Celsius. So if we are to look at these two temperatures, the 40 and 41, here there is an increase of 1 degree Celsius temperature. As well here, there is an increase of 1 degree Celsius temperature. So we are seeing here that the differences are the same. The differences make meaning within the temperature. We have a 1 degree increase in temperature, 1 degree increase in temperature. But why we say there is no true zero is that at 0 degrees Celsius, it doesn't mean that we have zero heat. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have zero heat, because at 0 degrees Celsius, we can still have some heat present. That is why the temperature can go even down to negatives, down to the negatives. And why do the ratios make no meaning? If we are to divide 80 by 40 degrees, we'll get 2 will get 2, and this doesn't mean that this 80 degrees is as twice as hot as 40 degrees. That is how the ratios do not give out the meaning of what we're saying. Then we are going to finally look at the ratio data. So that was it for interval data, and we are seeing how we have an arbitrary zero, and the ratios are not making any meaning, but intervals are making meaning. Then for ratio data, this one is now the final type of data. but this will combine some. It has a concept of interval within it. The differences make meaning, but as well the ratios make meaning. So such data, we are saying ratios, both ratios and intervals, both ratios and intervals are meaningful. They carry meaning, are meaningful. So for example, we can give an example is distance. Distance in kilometers. Let's say distance in kilometers. If we have somewhere a journey of 15 kilometers and a journey of 25 kilometers, this distance, we can have 15, then 25. So this distance is less than this one by a given digit. But at 0, we need to know also that at 0 kilometers, we have no distance traveled. So here the 0. Another characteristic is the 0. The 0, we have a true 0. The 0 is true. Trueness of the 0, present. The ratios are meaningful, and as well the intervals are meaningful. Those are the scales of measurement, and these are very important for any researcher to understand which scale of measurement you're using for your data. So for these types of data, there is something I want us to include in. There are two other terms that are usually used in research, and those are the terms of qualitative data and quantitative data. Qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, like it has a word quantity in it. Quantitative, it has quantity in it. Whenever we are dealing with what is called quantitative data, that means we are having some measurements somewhere, measurements and counts. So quantitative data simply deals with measurements and counts. Measurements can be in terms of weight, length, but counts can be in terms of number of students offering a given course. That is a count. Then now for our data this side, for our scales of measurement, we are going to blend them in with these concepts. So quantitative, according to the data we've seen the other side, to the scales of measurement, ratio and interval data are quantitative data types. In ratio data, we gave an example of kilometer, distance in kilometer, that is a measurement. Then in interval data, we gave an example of temperature, it may be degrees Celsius, you can use degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit, and that is still a measurement. But we can also have counts, like number of students falling under the ratio. So in summary, ratio and interval data are quantitative data types. Then for nominal and categorical data, and nominal, categorical, ranked or ordinal, these ones are qualitative data types. And nominal is more of a descriptive data type, more of descriptive. But again, we are going to, interestingly enough, we need to break down quantitative data. We said quantitative can be measurements, they can as well be counts. But still, we can just say, we also have this quantitative. So quantitative can also be broken down into discrete, and continuous data. So for discrete data, we can define it as a type of data which is only where we present only in whole numbers. We present in whole numbers. For example, the counts we're talking about, number of students offering a given course, that is a count, and it is a discrete type of data. The students can either be 0, can be 1, 2, 3, 100, but they can't be 10.5. Number of insects, they can be a given number, which is a solid whole number without the... So another thing we can talk about discrete data, we are having whole numbers, then the data has gaps. Data has gaps, because for you to move a distance of 1 to 2, there are some numbers there that are not catered for. Then what else is, then data can be presented in fractions. Data can't be presented, not presented in fractions or point, not presented in fractions or decimals. So that is the secret data. Then continuous data is the one for measurements, and data can be presented in form of decimals, and in form of fractions. We can have fractions, but I want us to have this on a graph, shown graphically, the difference between the two data types, but a graphical presentation of the difference between the two types, so discrete and continuous. So for discrete data, we said we can use an example of number of students offering a given course. Number of students offering a given course. So we'll have our graph, our plot for discrete data like this. Then here we'll have the course students are offering. Let's say these guys are offering course A, a Bachelor of Science in a Bachelor of Science. Then these guys are taking Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine. Then these guys are taking this other courses. It could be Medicine and Surgery. Then the number of students, this side, number of students, and number of students there. This is how we present the discrete. This is number of students. This is the discrete type of data, how it is presented. For continuous type of data, it will assume a bell-shaped curve. So for discrete, we say we present data that can be measured. For example, the height. This is the height of students. And these are the different categories of the heights. So the graph will come out more of a bell-shaped curve. So that is the difference between these two, the discrete and the continuous data. So that is it for today. Thank you. I think we've achieved something. We've seen what statistics is, defined biostatistics, gave the reasons why we need to bother about these statistics, the different types of statistics, that is descriptive, inferential. We've seen the difference, how we draw inferences, why we need to sample, and why we collect a sample. Then another thing we've seen is the scales of measurement and the different data types, qualitative, quantitative. Then next time we'll still look at other concepts like parametric tests and non-parametric tests. Please thank you for joining. We meet next time.